This guy I made out with at the pagan bookstore told me about this group, this tantric group. That's the first thing I learned about Tantra, the difference between the initiated and the posers. If you have no idea what you're talking about, you say tantric. If you were in the know, you say tantric. I was at a large church in southern Ohio. You wouldn't know it was a church looking around. The churchly things, statues, crucifixes, pictures of what I could only assume were saints, were covered with brightly colored material. There were 40 people sitting in a circle on the carpeted floor, old and young, hippies, goths, people who looked like they just came from office jobs, still in work clothes. Every person that walked in the room, I sized up. Thinner than me, cuter than me, looked like they knew what the hell they were doing. I was recently brokenhearted. I call these years my fatter years. Codependent is not an accurate word. When my bipolar boyfriend disconnected with humanity, as he did in 6-month intervals, he also disconnected from our sex life. For 6 months, I got my orgasms from half gallons of ice cream. It's not like I believed his libido was my fault, but society tells us that 20-year-old men are just walking cocks. So having a 20-year-old boyfriend who doesn't bang you for 6 months is like being told you're unfuckable over and over and over. There were periods we had crazy, wild sex, so I stayed for 5 years. The most formative years, from age 18 right out of high school until I was 23. From my parents' house to playing house. Now suddenly alone and lonely. If I wanted a way out of feeling unfuckable, Tantra was the way. I took a seat in the circle of people and a couple sat in the center, Richard and Antoinette, both in their mid-40s. Antoinette was a tall brunette with a pixie haircut like an older Winona Ryder. She was wearing a stylish flowing purple tunic and harem pants. Richard was balding and thin. He wore loose baggy clothes with a slightly sweaty sheen, but he smelled of Tide laundry detergent. He gave off a perverted Mr. Rogers vibe. They introduced themselves. Richard did all the talking. I can't tell you a word he said because the entire time I was thinking about his forehead. He had a lump the size of a golf ball on the right side of his forehead. It wasn't red or bumpy or bruised, more of a deformity. And I thought, this guy has had literal mind-blowing sex, and I am witnessing the result. He opened with a few stretches, and we sat down in a circle, and he did an icebreaker where we said our name and told the group in one word how we felt. People started at one end of the circle, and it was a lot of, "Hi, I am Sarah, and I'm happy." There was a lot of happies, and "Oh, I'm feeling good." The crowd oohed and awed when somebody said they felt peaceful. The pressure was on. I needed something. I wanted someone to notice me, to think I was special, not just the fat girl. I've got to say something different, unexpected. And then it came to me. "Hi, I'm Jessica." And I gave a little wave. And then I looked directly at Richard and his wife and said, "Powerful." Richard actually squealed a little and clapped his hands. I was only 23. I didn't know any better than to catch the eye of a middle-aged, oversexed man. For our first exercise, we paired up with a stranger. Richard asked us not to talk, softly gave instructions. I sit opposite of you, very close. No, closer. I place my hand on your heart. I feel weird touching you. Your t-shirt is damp, and I can feel your heart pounding through your chest. And you place your heart on my heart, your hand on my heart. And I try not to flinch. And I think, what the fuck am I doing here? You cover your hand with mine, and I cover mine with yours. and we start looking at each other. We start feeling silly, and I want to fake it. And I want to say some bullshit right now, something that will make you laugh. We're sitting so close that our knees touch, and when you exhale, I inhale. Did I brush my teeth? Is my breath as warm as yours? Why does this remind me of kissing? Is anyone else blushing? And we really look into each other's eyes. I want to make you forget who I am or what I look like. I want you to think I'm somebody else, but I can't, because there's no room for that. I just have to be this human being, and you just have to be that human being, and I can't change it. We look for minutes and minutes. Just look at that connection. Live with it. And I think this could be the end of wars. This one technique. And just like that, I became a regular. Richard talked a lot about the tantric retreat, when for a whole weekend, every hour was dedicated to tantric practice. No partners required. For my budget, it was astronomical, $700, and there was no way I could pay for it. Richard pulled me aside one day. He knew from our conversations after class that I loved to write, and he needed some articles written for the organization. He offered a trade. I contemplated the offer, a cabin in the woods with a bunch of people looking to practice Tantra. But then I would owe Richard and Antoinette. Would this mean some kinky threesome call-in favor down the road? Sex with Antoinette I could handle, but with Richard, well, it was just sex, right? Of course I said yes. The retreat was mostly this: lecture, group exercises like massage or chanting or dancing, and solitary practice. Yes, masturbation. I'm partial to the one where you put the soles of your feet together. After each session, we were encouraged to go back to our room and practice the technique we discussed on ourselves, taking turns since the rooms were not private. I admit, I spent most of my private time reading a novel. Although I adore masturbation, exploring my tantric self in a squinky bunk bed at an old Girl Scout camp did not inspire me. And that was disappointing. In fact, the whole workshop was really not the orgy fest I was expecting. Well, almost. On the last day, we had one more workshop before heading home. The sun was going down, and Richard and Antoinette talked about the culmination of all we learned over the weekend and how we had to embrace the divine within each other. They explained what was about to happen could not in any way be inappropriate or sexual, or they would stop the exercise, okay? Okay. One of the assistants started to get undressed. We would get down to the level of nakedness that we were comfortable with, but we were encouraged to get completely naked. The blood started to rush to my ears. I was no longer listening. I looked around, trying to find someone hesitating, an ally, maybe a group of people saying, what? No. But there was no one. We were broken into 7-person groups. The assistant and her partner demonstrated. She lay on her back, closed her eyes. They did several breathing techniques. They were not to speak, not to kiss, or any other intimate action. We were naked. How much more intimate did this guy expect it to get? One person at a time would lay down in our group, and the entire group would massage this person at once. 6-on-1 gangbang massage. There was no way. I was not ready for this. If it was an orgy, no one would care what I looked like. We'd all be getting our rocks off. Non-sexually getting undressed was like being in front of a firing squad. Shirts and dresses were being neatly folded, a couple of sheepish grins and crossed arms over bare breasts, but everyone was undressing. I had no choice. I couldn't be the prude revolutionary. I had to get undressed. My jeans and underwear came off in one fell swoop because I did not want anyone seeing my granny whites. I balled them up with my shirt, and the bra took longer. Big boobs means 5 eye hooks. I couldn't just expertly unsnap them from behind. I had to do the flip and twist and haul it around in front of me. I was naked. It was hard to find a place to look. The ceiling, the carpet. Oh, look at those lovely curtains and flaccid penis. Luckily, someone in our group volunteered to lay down and go first. It began. Minutes went by quickly. Richard came around and told us it was time to move on to the next person, and it was my turn. This was the bravest thing I had ever done in that point in my life. Getting naked and laying down between 6 people and letting 12 hands rub oil all over my body was terrifying, mortifying. I closed my eyes and thought about every imperfection. I thought about all those hands connected to those people touching my imperfections. It was painful. But I thought, when else am I ever going to experience this? So I gave it all up. All those judgments, all that worry, all those thoughts. And I just lived in that moment. 12 hands moving on your body at once with your eyes closed, it doesn't feel like 6 people. It feels like 600 people or one giant person. It feels like all the wonderful, amazing, positive energy in the world trying to wrap you up and make you understand how much it wants to be part of you. There was no room for the rest of it. No way to fake my way through it. It felt good and happy. And most of all, it actually felt powerful. I never went back to Tantra. I stepped away from Richard and Antoinette's patronage because I decided being fuckable didn't mean just fucking anyone. I was very comfortable with being me. I wouldn't say that I always live in the present, but I haven't lost those tantric techniques, and you might catch me leaning closer to you, inhaling when you exhale, and I'll look into your eyes and hold it for just a moment. Maybe we'll connect. Awkwardly, uncomfortably, but honestly connect.
That was Jessica Hilt.